I didn't say a word when the HOA president screamed about trespassing. I just dropped the federal military reclamation order on the table and watched her lawyer go pale, shifting uneasily in his chair. The room was silent, except for the faint hum of the air conditioning, the soft click of pens on notepads, and my calm breathing. I had waited years for this moment, collected every deed, every ordinance, every scrap of legal authority, and now the HOA's power evaporated before their own eyes. I felt no triumph, only a quiet satisfaction as they realized the mistake they'd made by underestimating someone who had nothing left to lose but everything to protect. By the time I left that meeting, the board was stunned. The neighbors whispered behind their curtains, and I walked away without a word. The uniform I'd fought to keep on my back still pristine. Before any of this, life had been quieter, almost idyllic. I moved to this area to escape the chaos of city life and the constant noise of bureaucracy. To retreat to a place where the trees outnumbered the people and the mornings smelled like dew and pine. My house, a small cabin my grandfather had built, in the early 70s, sat on a gentle hill overlooking the river. It wasn't much, but it was mine and his. On weekends, I would fish in the bend of the river, the water glinting like fractured glass in the early sun, or tend to a small vegetable patch behind the cabin. Some evenings, I'd sit on the porch with a cup of coffee, watching the light fade behind the ridges, listening to the wind in the pines, and for a few hours, the world felt exactly as it should. I wasn't looking for drama, confrontation, or control. I only wanted to restore the cabin, preserve the land, and maybe grow old in quiet reflection. Surrounded by the life my family had built, the first sign of trouble came as absurd as it was unexpected. A letter taped to my garage announced I was in violation of some obscure rule about exterior paint color, or maybe it was gravel. I still can't remember. They claimed I was endangering the aesthetic integrity of the neighborhood. I hadn't repainted anything, hadn't even replaced the gravel on the driveway. I stared at the letter, confused, thinking surely it was a mistake. But then the fines began. Small at first, $50 here, $75 there, but the letters kept coming. It's more aggressively worded, more personal. They cited rules that didn't exist in my HOA charter, threatened liens, and even implied my visitors were unwelcome. It was surreal, a bureaucratic fever dream where logic had no place. I felt a low, simmering disbelief, not anger yet, just the strange, unsettling feeling that my peaceful corner of the world was slipping out from under me. I tried diplomacy. I sent emails, polite and carefully worded. I cited the HOA bylaws verbatim, attached the relevant municipal codes, and asked for meetings to clarify the violations. I requested compromise, offered to modify anything truly problematic, and reminded them of their fiduciary duties to the community. My overtures were met with silence. When they did respond, it was mockery disguised as procedure. It was more threats, fines, and increasingly ridiculous claims. Flags flown at the wrong angle, garden gnomes positioned incorrectly. My mailbox allegedly offensive to the neighborhood aesthetic. I realized at some point sending emails was not only useless, it was feeding their sense of power. That's when I stopped asking politely and began reading property law, zoning ordinances, federal statutes, and military land use regulations. With a focus so precise, it became all-consuming. The shift in my strategy was methodical, almost surgical. I retrieved the original county survey from 1972, traced the property deed back 3 generations, and discovered that part of the HOA's claimed jurisdiction overlapped federal land easements from my grandfather's time in the service. I photographed every piece of correspondence, recorded conversations, documented fines, and created a meticulous timeline of their harassment. Nights were spent hunched over old legal texts, cross-referencing ordinances, and calling retired attorneys. For historical context, my family grew cautious around me. My partner worried I was becoming obsessed. My children confused by the sudden shift in atmosphere at home. Still, I worked quietly. Each legal discovery a piece in a puzzle I could already see completed in my mind. Isolation became a tool, focus became a weapon, and patience became my shield. When I finally acted, it was as subtle as it was devastating. I presented the board with the original deed, the federal military reclamation order, and the zoning easement. Papers. The documents were old, yellowed, and precise, showing that the land on which their authority was built had been partly designated for veteran use. Inherited and protected under federal law, I didn't shout, I didn't point fingers. I simply laid the papers on the table, allowed the room to breathe in the weight of the evidence. The board members, the lawyer, and the president stared in disbelief. Their mouths opened and closed, words failing as the implications sank in. Every fine, every threat, every petty rule they had enforced vanished in the face of the law. My uniform, once questioned, now symbolized every sacrifice. Every hour of careful preparation and every ounce of patience I had exercised. It was more than fabric, it was authority, legitimacy, and the quiet power of rightful claim. After that day, the HOA crumbled. The president resigned without ceremony, the lawyer distanced himself, citing conflicts of interest, and the board dissolved quietly without fanfare. Some neighbors, initially cautious, came forward to apologize, though few ever looked me in the eye again. Others simply kept their distance, watching but not daring to challenge me. I returned to the quiet life I had cherished, but with subtle victories embedded in every corner. I could walk through the neighborhood without tension, tend my cabin without interference, and wear my uniform freely, a small but meaningful restoration of dignity. Fishing on weekends felt the same, yet different, infused with the satisfaction. That comes when patience, legality, and calm strategy converge. Now, when I pass through the area, some wave, some turn away. Either way, it is quiet again, and for the first time in a long time, I am free to simply exist in the place I was always meant to call home.